Human suffering is inevitable, but how we understand it changes everything. In one corner, we have Friedrich Nietzsche, the wild-eyed philosopher who believed pain is the fuel for greatness. And in the opposite corner, Sigmund Freud, the clinical mind who saw suffering as a disease that needs to be healed. Two intellectual titans, two world-shattering views on pain, but only one may have truly understood what we're really going through. We all suffer. It's part of the human condition. Whether it's heartbreak, anxiety, existential dread, or that quiet emptiness gnawing at you in traffic, suffering is everywhere. But the way we explain suffering, that's where things get interesting. Enter Nietzsche and Freud. Two men, same era, different weapons. One wielded a hammer to smash illusions, Nietzsche. The other held a scalpel to dissect the unconscious, Freud. Why compare them? Because no two thinkers have shaped our understanding of human suffering more, and yet they stood on opposite sides of the ring. Nietzsche, the philosopher-poet, claimed suffering is necessary. It's how we grow. It's how we become stronger. He said, to live is to suffer, to survive is to find some meaning in the suffering. Freud, the father of psychoanalysis, believed suffering is often the result of repression, of unresolved childhood trauma. He wanted to treat it to cure the neuroses that torment the modern mind. But this isn't just academic. Their ideas shape your life. Therapy, self-help books, your Instagram quotes, the way we talk about trauma, strength, healing, it all traces back to these two. So today, we're putting them head to head. Not in a polite seminar. Not in some dusty lecture hall. This is an ideological showdown. Who had the deeper insight into suffering? Who gets us? And most importantly, who can help us now? What does not kill me makes me stronger. Boom. One of the most overused, misquoted lines in pop culture. But for Nietzsche, it wasn't motivational fluff. It was a philosophy of life carved out of agony. This man didn't just theorize pain, he lived it. Chronic illness, isolation, mental collapse. Nietzsche wasn't preaching from an ivory tower. He was writing with trembling hands from the edge of existence. And through that darkness, he found something radical. Suffering isn't a curse. It's a catalyst. Let's break down Nietzsche's philosophical knockout combo. Firstly, suffering builds resilience. For Nietzsche, pain is not something to run from. It's the arena where your character is forged. Think of a boxer training by getting hit. Nietzsche believed every hardship, every heartbreak, every humiliation toughens you, pushes you closer to becoming who you really are. But here's the twist. It's not just about surviving pain. It's about transforming through it. He didn't want you to bounce back. He wanted you to come back different, stronger, sharper, wiser. Secondly, Amor Fati, love your fate. Imagine this. Every setback, every failure, every betrayal, you choose it. You love it. That's Amor Fati, the love of fate. Don't just accept pain. Embrace it. Love it like it was made for you. Nietzsche believed that greatness comes when you stop wishing life were different. When you say yes to your suffering, not because you enjoy it, but because it's yours. It's your crucible, your test, your transformation. It's a philosophy for warriors, not victims. Lastly, the will to power. Nietzsche argued that at our core, we don't seek pleasure or peace, we seek power. Not domination over others, but over ourselves. We crave the feeling of pushing through resistance, of overcoming limits. And suffering? That's the ultimate resistance. For Nietzsche, every painful experience is a challenge from life itself, a dare. Will you shrink from it, or will you rise? This isn't a perfect philosophy. Critics call it dangerous, even inhuman at times. Glorifying pain? Not everyone makes it out of suffering stronger. What about people trapped in trauma? What about the crushed, the lost, the clinically depressed? Nietzsche's view can come off like tough love on steroids. Great for those who can rise, but brutal for those who can't. His answer? Life doesn't care. The weak fall. The strong evolve. Cold? Maybe. But he wasn't in the business of comfort. He was in the business of truth. then, Nietzsche had no clinical method. Let's be clear, Nietzsche wasn't a therapist. He didn't offer coping strategies or healing tools. If you're having an anxiety, Nietzsche won't throw you a life raft. He'll yell from the shore. Swim harder. Powerful? Yes. Practical? Not always. In the modern world of mental health, his ideas lack the precision, empathy, and science of psychological treatment. But maybe that's the point. Nietzsche wasn't trying to fix us. He was trying to wake us up. You must have chaos within you to give birth to a dancing star. That's Nietzsche. No band-aids, no quick fixes, just raw, unfiltered transformation through fire. Next up, Freud enters the ring. He's not here to fight chaos. He's here to analyze it. Before we can conquer suffering, Freud might say, we must first understand where it hides. If Nietzsche was the hammer, Freud was the scalpel, cutting deep into the unconscious, probing the hidden wounds of the human psyche. Where Nietzsche screamed, Freud listened, patiently. Welcome to Freud's world, where pain isn't noble, and suffering isn't some heroic path to greatness. It's a symptom, a sign that something deep inside is unresolved, repressed, and ready to erupt. Let's step into Freud's theater of the mind. Repressed desires cause pain. Freud believed that suffering stems not from fate or failure, but from the unconscious. You're not just sad, you're conflicted. You're not just anxious, you're suppressing something, maybe since childhood. Freud argued that the human mind is like an iceberg. Most of it is submerged. And down there, in the dark, desires you were told not to feel. Traumas you tried to forget. Guilt, shame, fear, buried deep, but still controlling you. We repress to survive. But repression comes at a cost. Neurosis. Those strange habits, compulsions, breakdowns that we can't explain. For Freud, suffering was a puzzle, and the clues were in your dreams, your slips of the tongue, your childhood memories. Then comes psychoanalysis, dragging darkness into the light. Freud's great invention was not just theory, it was a method. The couch, the patient, the talking cure. He believed healing comes when the unconscious is made conscious, when you talk through your pain, your past, your parents, your suppressed rage and forbidden wishes. The goal? Insight. Once you see the root cause, the suffering starts to lose its grip. Where Nietzsche told you to endure, Freud told you to explore. Then comes Freud's classic inner conflict, pleasure principle versus reality principle. The pleasure principle wants instant gratification. Food, sex, comfort, escape. The reality principle says, grow up. You can't always get what you want. The clash between these two, that's where neurosis is born. You want something. Society says no, so you suppress it. But it doesn't go away, it just turns into anxiety, depression, obsession. For Freud, modern life forces us into this conflict, and suffering is the price we pay for civilization. But wait, Freud doesn't escape the critique corner either. Time to flip the couch. Firstly, over-pathologizing normal pain. Critics argue Freud made everything about trauma. Grief, neurosis, guilt, Oedipal conflict. Can't focus. Must be repressed sexual tension. Sometimes pain is just pain. Do we really need a 200-page case study to explain heartbreak? Freud had a tendency to turn normal suffering into a clinical problem, as if every emotional struggle was a disorder waiting for diagnosis. Secondly, therapy has evolved. While Freud revolutionized how we think about the mind, many of his ideas haven't aged well. The Oedipus complex, the penis envy theory, the idea that women suffer because they aren't men. Yikes. Modern therapy, like CBT, trauma-informed care, somatic work, has moved beyond his rigid models. Freud cracked the door open, but others had to walk through and remodel the house. Still, one thing's undeniable, he changed the game. He made suffering talkable. He gave pain context. And for millions, that alone was healing. Unexpressed emotions will never die. They are buried alive and will come forth later in uglier ways. That's Freud. Less fire and brimstone, more dark corridor and whispering shadows. He didn't demand transformation, he invited confession. But now, let's bring them face to face. What happens when the warrior of suffering meets the analyst of pain? And now, the main event. Two worldviews. One question: what do we do with human suffering? In the Nietzsche corner, a battle cry: face the pain, become something greater. In the Freud corner, a calm voice: let's understand the pain so we can heal it. Let's bring them into the ring. Round 1. Is suffering inevitable or a malfunction? Nietzsche stands tall. Suffering is not the enemy, it's the path. Escape it and you remain mediocre. Endure it and you transcend. He saw a world too obsessed with comfort, too eager to numb itself. Pain, to Nietzsche, is the crucible of greatness. Avoiding it makes us fragile, sterile, small. Then Freud steps in. Suffering is not noble. It's often a wound, a buried trauma, a repressed desire. It's not destiny, it's damage. To him, pain isn't fuel, it's friction, a signal that something inside you is broken. His mission? Trace it, name it, treat it. Nietzsche says, don't treat it, own it. Freud says, you can't own it if you don't understand it. Round 2, the enemy within. For Nietzsche, the enemy is comfort, safety, herd mentality. He who has a why to live can bear almost any how. For Freud, the enemy is repression. We lie to ourselves to fit in, to function, but the unconscious remembers, and it leaks through dreams, slips, obsessions, breakdowns. Where Nietzsche demands confrontation with fate, Freud demands confrontation with the self. Final round, the big question. Is suffering something to transcend or something to resolve? Nietzsche says, transcend it. Climb it like a mountain. Love your fate, even the agony. Freud counters, resolve it. Understand its source. Suffering isn't your path to glory. It's your mind's alarm bell. Listen to it, then turn it off. So who's right? That depends on what kind of pain you're in. Are you lost, purposeless, numb? Nietzsche hands you a sword and says, struggle upward. Are you stuck, anxious, haunted by your past? Freud hands you a mirror and says, well, let's talk about it. One turns your wounds into wings. The other stitches them shut. Both claim to free you, but they're walking different roads. Next, we bring it home. In today's mental health world, who helps us more? In a world drowning in self-help and therapy memes, whose shadow still shapes how we heal, Nietzsche or Freud? Let's talk real life. Let's talk now. Firstly, Nietzsche's influence, rise through the struggle. Nietzsche isn't a licensed therapist, but his fingerprints are all over the modern resilience movement. Resilience training in schools, sports, and leadership programs, that's Nietzschean grit. The popularity of Stoicism, endure, adapt, overcome, also Nietzsche adjacent. The psychological idea of post-traumatic growth, the notion that people can emerge stronger after suffering, Nietzsche would be nodding furiously. This is the gladiator philosophy of the 21st century. Mental health as strength building, suffering as a gym. But here's the danger. Nietzsche can be misused. His ideas are sometimes hijacked by toxic cultures. Just tough it out. Pain is weakness leaving the body. Suddenly, genuine emotional pain gets dismissed as weakness. Trauma gets spiritualized instead of treated, and people start shaming themselves for not growing fast enough. Nietzsche wanted transformation, not denial, but too often we confuse the two. Then, Freud's influence. Talk it out, feel it through. Now let's walk into Freud's legacy. This time, it's clinical. Talk therapy, psychoanalysis, even modern trauma therapy all owe their existence to Freud. He gave us the language of the inner life, unconscious motives, childhood wounds, defense mechanisms. He helped destigmatize mental illness. Before Freud, suffering was either sin or weakness. After Freud, it was psychology. The very act of going to therapy today is a quiet echo of Freud's revolution. You don't have to suffer alone. You can understand yourself. But modern Freud comes with baggage. Are we over-pathologizing normal emotions? There's a growing concern that sadness, anxiety, even existential dread are too quickly labeled as disorders. Do we always need a diagnosis? A prescription? A 10-week CBT plan? Sometimes a breakup hurts because it should. Sometimes you're anxious because the world is on fire. Freud taught us to listen to pain, but in the wrong hands, that listening becomes over-labeling. So, who helps us more today? Nietzsche gives us meaning in the suffering. Freud gives us language for the suffering. Both offer tools, but they have blind spots. Nietzsche reminds us we're not broken, we're becoming. Freud reminds us we're not weak, we're wounded. In the modern mental health world, we need both. The fire to endure, the mirror to understand. So, are you climbing the mountain or lying on the couch? Maybe healing needs both. So, who understood human suffering better? If we're talking clinical utility, Freud takes the win. He gave us the blueprint for therapy, mental health language, and a way to talk through the storm. But in the ring of existential depth, Nietzsche dominates. He doesn't just help us endure pain, he dares us to embrace it, transform through it, even love it. Freud helps us survive suffering. Nietzsche helps us justify it. And maybe we need both. So now it's your turn. Who do you agree with? Freud or Nietzsche? Drop your thoughts in the comments. No repression allowed. Like, subscribe, and hit that bell so you don't miss the next round in our philosophy showdowns. See you in the next battle of minds. Until then, keep thinking dangerously.